This is Undaunted.Life, a man's podcast. I'm your host, Kyle Thompson. Let's get into it. Welcome back to the Forging Table. The mission of Undaunted.Life is equipping men to push back darkness with content that forges spiritual, mental, and physical resilience. At the Forging Table, you will see a group of regular guys forging spiritual resilience by digging into God's Word, and we're welcoming all of you to come along on that journey with us. That's Winkler, that's Dagan, that's Ryan. Going out of order right now, guys. We're digging into Acts 12, but the first thing I need to know is, Ryan, what were you looking at just a second ago? I was doing my intro. You got all distracted. You looked over there. Are you scared? Is something over there? Did you see a ghost?
I was seeing if it was dark outside yet.
Okay, the reason why Winkler is dying laughing currently is because we are in a studio. There is one window, and if it were open, we would know. It's a blacked out studio, and yet you get so distracted in the middle of my intro that you just rubberneck over to see if it's still light outside. Would you like to report to the listeners whether or not you can see light outside the studio?
And sometimes I look over here because I check my mic volume.
Yeah, so guys on YouTube, no. On YouTube, we've got all of our levels and crap that I don't understand. Shout out to Landon, our editor over there. But on most of the screen is us. And so Dagan and I can't see whether or not we look cool in the exact moment. But these two jackwagons, Winkler and Horn, constantly look over there. But I will say this, Winkler, I had to mention it one time, and he's like, all right, I'm going to stop doing that. You, however, you look at yourself.
I'm not looking at myself. I'm looking at the mic levels.
In yourself over there.
No, I don't.
I find it ironic that probably the two people that shouldn't be looking at the screen more than anybody else are probably looking at themselves.
Come on, man. Don't sell yourself short.
You've given me so much crap about my voice.
No.
And everything. So I check my mic levels. Like, I'm in the yellows right now, and that's where I want to be.
I'm going to help you out here, even though I've explained this every week to you for like 2 years now. That's why we wear headphones, because you can hear yourself. You don't need to see the levels. Like, remember how many times we did this without levels? What did I tell you? How you can tell? Because you can hear whether or not the mic's picking you up, brother.
Last time when I was on, like 3 weeks ago, I looked over and I could see the levels. And so I was like, oh, man.
And did it help? And while you were looking over there?
No, because then you went over and you were like, why did you quit checking yourself out?
I also saw you were licking your fingers and then,
that's the only way I can fix my hair. Yeah. Yeah. That's the only way I can fix my hair.
I mean, but it's got to be pretty easy in the mornings. Like, you just don't really have to do anything. You just get out of the shower, you pick out of your 50 colognes, and then you go, and then you kind of pick. What was the cologne you went with today, just so the guys out there that are into it, the 2 or 3 that are into it, like,
I don't know, Joey's already mad at me because of my colognes.
He is mad. And the thing about it is you were playing with house money because he somehow, for some reason, said that you were his favorite forging tabler.
Not anymore.
And then you blew it. All you had to do was just ride that wave of momentum to rapture, buddy.
You asked me, but you brought up my colognes.
You could have just like easily
and then Adam asked me how much they cost, and I couldn't lie.
It was the perfect storm.
Yeah,
like at that exact
moment. I felt
moment.
like Mark Wahlberg and George Clooney at one.
Hey, I will just say, but I mean, you still haven't admitted which one are you wearing right now?
I'm wearing Green Irish Tweed by Creed.
Green Irish Tweed, and that is not Creed the band, Dagan.
Okay.
So Dagan, just to bring you up to speed, just because I don't think you've listened to that episode quite yet, but
you don't want to.
Yeah,
it actually wasn't as bad as I thought it was.
So I was taking a shower over at Ryan's house. It's a long story, but I'm coming out of the shower, and like a normal man, you know what I'm looking for? I'm looking for Q-tips, right? Got to get the gunk out of the How is that funny?
My Q-tips are like right out there on the counter.
Yeah,
like
I did
if you
see
would
that.
have looked at the counter. The dude just wanted to reason Snoop, like
No.
freaking Snoop Dogg over here. I was like,
no.
Let's see what kind of smells he's got.
I was not snooping because you never know what you're going to find. I don't need to find. Anyway, we'll leave that. You never know what you're going to find in someone's bathroom. But I open up one cabinet door, and there's like 3 dozen bottles of cologne. No hyperbole, bro. Like no. There was somewhere between 2 and 3 dozen bottles of
There's
cologne.
not 30 like 24 bottles of cologne in there,
bro.
All right, let's just go with the 12.
Yeah.
No.
Okay.
No. Hard pass.
I'll go with 15.
No.
We'll take
hold
20.
on.
Okay.
I'll take 20. I'll take 20.
I'm going a different route here. So I wear cologne. All right, you guys can judge me, whatever. But the 12, I'm just curious why you would need 12.
Well,
like even 12.
And it's way worse than that. But
I have one that I would wear when it's hot, and then one I would wear when it's colder.
see, I think that's too many.
right. That's too many, roughly.
That's fair enough.
I have one bottle of cologne that was a gift from my wife. I don't think I've ever purchased cologne for myself.
Well,
so my question is,
I'm not answering any more questions.
did you purchase all of these?
No, some of them were purchased for me.
Like 25 years ago, and you still have it?
Well, like My first bottle of Creed I got in 2017. I still have it.
So is this like so some people are into bourbon, right? Some people are into guitars.
Let me give you the story. Let me give you the story. So
I just love that Dagan isn't aware, so we get to do this again. I freaking love it.
I freaking hate this.
You're welcome. Let's go.
I would have the same reaction if I walked into a dude's bathroom and opened up the cabinet and saw like this menagerie of scents.
way more than 12.
Yeah.
Way more than 12, but go ahead.
Explain.
I would.
Ryan worked the dealer's counter. That's
he was
what
basically going. He's like, I think Horn's got a brush I can use. I'm like, yeah, no, you're just looking through my stuff.
No, I'm just looking for Q-tips.
So I was 7th grade. I was in home ec. There was this girl I really liked. So I went up to talk to her, and she's like, "What's your name?" And I was like, "Ryan Horn." And she's like, "Oh, weren't you the guy that crapped his pants last year in class?" And I'm like, "No."
This is the foundation.
Yes. And so like I already had kind of like my dad wore cologne and he got me like 2 colognes, you know, like back when I was like 6, I still had them.
No.
Let me finish.
Was the story true?
What story?
That you crapped your pants?
No, I didn't crap my pants.
Okay, yeah, we didn't actually cover that part.
No.
Okay.
Like I was like, no, I did not crap my pants. You know, but it got around that supposedly I crapped my pants. And so I remember like people would sit next to me because they thought I smelled bad. And like it just kind of sat with me. And so I remember going home and I said, all I want for my birthday and Christmas is cologne. So like since like
For the rest of my life, every year.
Yeah. So like people would just buy me cologne. And then I started smelling other colognes and I went to pick up some cologne for my dad one time and like this stuff smelled really good. So I bought some of that and then it just kind of just snowballed from there. And so I would buy colognes. Like if I run out of like a Creed now, then I'll go and buy another Creed. I try to find which smell I like the most and kind of roll with that smell. But like, yeah, I have one. I actually don't have one. I have 2 for spring, 2 for fall, 2 for winter. So
2 for Flag
summer.
Day, 2 for Easter.
Yeah.
2.
Well,
Now,
I also have like very elegant affair cologne. And then I have like just my regular go around town cologne, stuff like that. So,
dang it. I'm so happy this
Go
is
around
happening
town
again.
cologne.
yeah, man. That's where I wear the Versace.
Okay, because here's wait. Here's the last time. So like, I think I wore like Curve or Cool Water, one of those two. I literally moved into this house 8 years ago with a bottle of cologne and never touched it. And I literally threw it away a month or 2 ago because you know why? Because I use soap and I bathe. Like, so I don't feel the need for extra. I don't feel the need for extra scents. But one thing that you haven't gotten to yet is why don't you ask him how much the bottles cost?
So go back and watch. Back and watch
we're
the
here
episode.
now. Let's do it live.
Okay, no.
I'm going to watch it. I will watch it. But
You can
this
Google it.
Creed thing. Just give me one example.
Hold
Just
on.
go
Can I
Google
guess?
Creed.
Can I guess?
You own Creed. You know how much it costs.
I do know how much Creed costs.
Yeah.
It's expensive.
Let me ask you this. Is a bottle of it more than $300?
Way more.
Whoa.
Way more.
Wow.
I told Kyle I'll donate all my cologne when he donates all his guns to Shane Claiborne.
No. See, that was the thing that got me because I was like, okay, so you got a cologne thing, but I had no idea about the world of cologne because I had Pimp when I was a kid. I had Cool Water and Curve.
You probably like wore Axe.
No, didn't wear Axe because I'm not a redneck. Okay, so I was
just redheaded.
I'm older than you guys, so it was Green Polo and Dracar Noir.
Oh man, that's my emo name.
Dracar Noir.
You ever seen that show? There's a show on Fox called Raising Hope, and this like really goofy kid has like a kid that he's raising with his parents, and like all of a sudden he goes back to his emo days, and his name's Dracar Noir. It's so funny. I was like, Raising Hope, dude, you got to watch it. It's hilarious.
Well, we got off subject there for a little bit. So why don't you tell Dagan what some of these bottles cost? Like, what's kind of like your Mount Rushmore of expensive bottles? What are they and how expensive are they?
Tell me what the most expensive.
Yeah, let's go the elegant. You're wearing a tuxedo.
Well, if I'm wearing a tuxedo, I wear Creed Oud or I wear Penhaligon. Much Ado About the Duke.
That's one. That's
the
one
one with
name?
the dog head. Yeah.
Okay, that was the one I remembered, and those costs approximately.
So the Much Ado About the Duke was like a little over, probably over $300, but it's like only like 2.5 fluid ounces when you can get Creed at like 3.3. So you have to look at
what a
fluid
bargain.
ounces. Well, Creed's, yeah, I mean
1.3 more ounces.
Right.
more sprays, bro. So
right.
I mean,
But let's get to the top ones. What are your top most expensive bottles? Let's go.
the Creed ones, like the Creed.
Right, but how much are they?
I'm not, dude. I'm not.
Come on,
doing
man. We're
this.
doing it. We're
I'm not
here.
doing this.
Dagan's leaning forward. He's interested.
Will you do it for me?
No. Don't save him. Don't save him.
So I like to wear, if I do my 2 winter scents, one's Creed Viking, that's about $450. And if you get Creed Oud, it's about $550. And those are probably the 2 most expensive ones. All the other Creeds are like $450. The Oud is really expensive.
To back up Ryan a little bit here, I bet you everybody at this table can probably point to one thing that they spend entirely too much money on, and we have zero reason to have that much of it.
Yeah, but just cologne's really bad.
Yeah.
It's just, I was just shocked. Okay. I'm trying to find Q-tips, and I just found out something I wish I didn't know. Well, because that's the other thing is like, I never have been around you, put my arm around you, something like that, and been like, oh, because you can usually tell when people are wearing cologne. So it's typically pretty subtle.
So when that episode dropped, I had like 3 people try to smell me at church.
No, hold on.
Just leaning in.
I got the biggest heartburn on how you put it on.
Oh yeah, let's do that.
It's just completely wrong.
Take us through the process.
Completely wrong.
It's completely wrong.
Okay,
How do you put on cologne?
At pulse points, man.
I do have pulse points.
Here, let me tell you how I do it.
Here.
Okay,
that's it.
So
let me tell you how I do it.
Dagan, and then we got the master.
I got one bottle. It's John. Is it Varvatos?
yeah, John Varvatos.
John Varvatos.
Wicker.
With the leather around it or
wicker,
something.
yeah, he does leather.
It smells good.
It's good stuff.
But I wear it because my wife bought it because she thinks it smells good, and that's the only
point,
reason
yeah.
I wear it. I will if she thinks I smell good, I'll wear it. But it spritzes on both sides of the neck, and then I was taught to put it on your wrist, and then you rub your wrist. You
Don't rub it. Just done.
Well, I'm doing it wrong. I'm rubbing.
Why this? Why for the people just listening at home? Winkler was just
I'm
tapping his wrist.
Yeah.
Pop.
Just double tap.
Okay.
That's all you need to do.
Double tap.
If you start rubbing it together, you're going to actually rub it into your pores, and then it actually won't come out.
So
You won't get
come
the
out.
scent.
What do you mean?
Won't get the scent.
well,
The scent will go away quicker.
You should also moisturize too.
All right, I don't get that.
Because if you have dry skin,
Yeah.
it won't catch the oils.
I love how he points to Winkler when he says you have to moisturize.
Do
Freaking ashy.
You also have to moisturize.
do we want to go into face care routines next? Maybe talk about
Hey man,
my favorite nail polish.
Hey man, I have to.
This is the most manly version of the forging table I've ever sat through.
I do the same thing you do. But I spray this.
Let's share recipes next.
Spray.
Okay.
I'll share
All
recipes.
right, I'm down with that. Barbecue recipes.
Yeah.
Let's go. All right. So Ryan, what's the appropriate way?
One spray, 2 spray in the back, and then I spray the pressure points. But then I do that, and then I do this, and I do that too, because I have a bald head. So
you have to describe it in detail for the people at home that aren't watching it, because you said that. They don't know what that means.
All right,
so we need to get real detailed here. Come on, Ryan.
I'm glad I'm not going to
We're dragging this out.
for a couple of
We're
months.
dragging this one out. Let's
Chest.
go.
This is my
Chest,
last one for a
neck.
while. So spray chest twice.
It's like the
Spray
Macarena
back,
right now.
Spray back once. Spray pressure point on your wrist twice. Then dab, and then dab on the sides, and then I rub the rest on my head.
Now let's go back to this moisturizer thing. Now, I only opened up one cabinet door and was so shocked by what I saw, I snuck out of the house. If I had opened up the cabinet drawer next to it, would I have seen like 17 different moisturizers?
No, I just use Bloody Knuckles. There's like this stuff that helps with dry skin. If your skin's dry, it's not going to... The cologne's not going to catch.
Let me ask you this. Are you a member of any forums specifically about...
No. I only do barbecue and whiskey forums.
Okay.
Cologne's like, I like cologne, and I spend money on cologne because I like good smelling cologne, but like if I really had a passion, it's smoking meat and drinking bourbon. I mean, my bourbon collection is bigger than my cologne collection. But no, I get it. It's a lot of money on cologne. I get it's ridiculous. And...
Well, it's kind of like,
I apologize to all you listeners out there for my ridiculous.
You buy a lot, but it's going to last a long time. It's not like you're.
Does it go bad?
No, I still have one from like 2016.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
There's not like an expiration date.
Yeah,
on
like
these?
it's not like I buy these every year. I like buy one. Like sometimes if I see a sale or a deal, I'll go and buy one. Or, you know, when I work sales, I get a commission check, and if I want to go get myself something and I already have plenty of bourbon, maybe I'll save up and go get a cologne for that year.
Okay,
you know, or I get it for Christmas and Father's Day or something like that.
Okay, legitimate question, because every time I feel like every year I find like a collectibles world that I knew nothing about, that people are like bajillionaires because they collect like ancient toothpicks or something. So like, are there like colognes that are kind of like a bourbon to where it's like, well, we'll say like a single malt scotch. So you have like Lagavulin 25, only 8,000 bottles were made. I have bottle 253. Like, and then every year a bottle gets opened or lost or broken. And so it becomes more and more valuable. Is that the same?
We just discovered a 1957 bottle of Old Spice.
Right. No, like legit. Like, would that be, is that a thing? Do people,
I don't know. I wear it, but I'm pretty sure if like, I like put one away and then my kid or grandkid picked it up, they probably don't make it anymore. But Creed's been around since like a long time. Like that's what, like kings were wearing it back in like the 1800s and stuff like
Louis the 16th.
Yeah. Like it's been around for like a long time.
I didn't know cologne went back that far.
Yeah.
Louis the 16th
learn something every day.
Yeah.
What are you
at
looking
the
up?
guillotine.
I'm just
You ordering a bottle? Dagan, are you doing it live here on the show?
No.
Are you sure?
Yeah. One quick Google, it'll and the pricing will talk you out of buying something real fast.
You can't.
$495 for Creed Aventus.
Yeah, that's Aventus.
That's what I
don't have
wear.
that one.
So what season is that for?
I would
Aventus?
wear Aventus in the winter or I would wear it in the fall.
And see, I wear it in the summer.
So
I wear
again,
green Irish tweed.
guys, we've lost the entire audience at this point, but I don't even care because I got more questions. So what makes a scent a summer scent versus a winter scent?
I'd say like what are the main layers like bergamot, oud. Oud. I wear a lot of ouds in the winter because it's going to pick up. It's going to carry them a little bit more.
Okay.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't have that. I think it smells good.
Like
Okay.
I think it smells
good when it's cold.
And in the fall I wear Tom Ford bourbon vanilla.
Hey, listen, every once in a while when I get dressed up, I wear John Varvatos cologne because I like sex.
And on that note, guys, let's go and talk about Acts 12.
If you bought some
transition
Creed, you'd
of
have
all
more sex.
transitions. I hope your wife is not listening to this episode. Does it have actual bits of Panther in it? Guys, let's dig into Acts 12. Acts 12. Ryan, you've done a lot of talking and you're going to do a lot more. So here, let's do, well, not a lot more. Let's just read the first 5 verses of Acts 12.
All right. About the time Herod the king laid violent hands on some who belonged to the church, he killed James, the brother of John, with a sword. And when he saw that it pleased the Jews, he proceeded to arrest Peter also. This was during the days of unleavened bread. And when they had seized him, he put him in prison, delivering him over to 4 squads of soldiers to guard him, intending after the Passover to bring him out to the people. So Peter kept... Why are you laughing?
He's just talking.
Is it because I can't read good?
No, you're reading just fine. We were all turning the page at the same time.
So Peter was kept in prison, but earnest prayers for him was made to God by the church.
So James, brother of John, not the half brother of Jesus or brother of Jesus, first apostle killed. So this is kind of a big deal here. And just for a little note here, Herod, this is not Herod the Great. This is Herod Agrippa the First. This is the grandson of Herod the Great. So there's a few things that we can talk about here in this first section, but something that I found to be pretty interesting in verse 5. So Peter was kept in prison, but earnest prayer for him was made to God by the church. So if you keep reading along, you know that, spoiler alert, Peter gets saved.
Yep.
But the praying that they were doing for him at this time, they didn't know that was going to happen.
Yep.
So they're praying in such a fervent way. Again, it's saying, but earnest prayer for him was made to God by the church. That's something that's interesting to me. I feel like in a modern context, the only time I've ever seen something like that is if you've got, I don't know, maybe someone gets a bad cancer diagnosis or one of their children gets sick or injured, or like maybe there's like an affair or like a tragic death or something. Like those are maybe the only times where I feel like you could categorize, hey, this group of believers is doing earnest prayer on behalf of somebody else. But I feel like we don't really see that too terribly often.
No, I mean, I think we all pray to find solace. We pray to find comfort in God. And I think R.C. Sproul brought it up in this about just prayer in general, that people think that, God has unanswered prayers, and it's God never unanswers prayers. He's either tells you yes, no, or wait. Yeah. And so that's one thing that we have to look at when we are praying. Like people are praying for Peter to be released. People were praying for James to be released, and sometimes it happens, sometimes it doesn't, and so we just have to put our faith in God's sovereignty and just kind of roll with it. But always talk to him. I mean, I don't know. I'm not the best at prayer life. I wish I was. It's something I could definitely work on, but most of the time when I'm praying, just to God about, certain things, like just praising him and everything like that. But very rarely do I come and say, hey, Lord, I need this. And I think there's times when that needs to be done. And I think doing that as a church body is a good, fruitful thing.
Have you guys been a part of like a body of believers that are praying? I mean, some people just have the gift of it, right? It's like it's like a sermonette as they're praying, and it is sincere, and it almost like it's just flowing off their tongue, but it's flowing off their tongue so easily. It's like they wrote it before they got up.
Yeah.
And then just but being in those groups, the encouragement that I've always been that received, right? Because I don't feel I'm like that. I feel like I'm like I like praying, but I don't feel like I'm like that pray like some of those people do. But man, it's like an electric, like, it's like the Spirit is moving and you can feel it in the body of believers, and you really can feel the power of communal prayer like that. Like, have you guys experienced the same thing?
Yes. Yeah. I mean, I always say the scariest sentence for me to hear when I'm among a body of believers is, Jake, will you pray for us? It's the scariest sentence because I'm like, I don't do this very well. Like you can put me, I teach classes and we'll do some public speaking and everything. And I can speak extemporaneously, no problem. But for some reason, whenever it's like, okay, we're praying now, I am way more comfortable praying like Nehemiah did, like in 150 words or less. I mean, or 150 characters or less. That's my type of prayer. I'm way more quick. And so whenever I do get asked to pray for a large group, I'm never that comfortable. And maybe maybe I shouldn't be, but I don't really know any other way to do it. I remember at the 4th of July gathering last year, Kyle was there. We go to a 4th of July gathering at Russell's house, who was on the forging table previously. And Russell was just like, hey, Jake, will you pray for us? And I'm like there, and I'm like, yeah.
You should have done a Catholic prayer. That would have been super sweet.
Hail Mary.
Right. Everyone's like, oh my God, what's happening?
You guys ever get a part of those groups where y'all have to go lay hands on somebody? Everybody's like laying hands on like one person and praying for them, but your hand's like on the guy in front of you, and you're like,
and you're hoping it passes
like
through
your prayer
that
tray.
guy.
But then it's like one guy starts, and then like it just like kind of goes, and you're like, you know who the last guy is, but then you're like, well, only one person prayed, so I better say something or I better pray something, because if it gets to this other guy, it's like 2 people prayed for me. Yeah. I run into those. Those kind of freak me out.
I think I've struggled. I think we've talked a few times about struggles with personal prayer life and stuff on this show. But again, every week we get new listeners, and so every now and then it's worth it to bring it back up again. And I've been very honest about me personally struggling with prayer, because I'm like, okay, God is sovereign. So this 7-year-old girl that I found out that has cancer, I can pray for her, but he's either going to save her or he's not. And he's not going to determine whether or not to do so, depending upon if I pray about it or not, or how often I pray about it, or how long I do it, or how poetic it is, or if I'm laying hands or something like that. And so I know the Bible, church, and Sunday school answers to that. And, we're called to pray and, take our issues to the Lord and, to ask for things and all that type of stuff. But that's the thing for me where I struggle, to where it's like, okay, I don't want to just pray for stuff that I want because it feels selfish. Yeah. But at the same time, it's like, okay, when I'm specifically praying for something to go better for someone else, for someone to get good news from the doctor and not bad news, or for someone's marriage to work out, that, when it's on the rocks, like when I'm praying for that at the whole time, I'm like, yeah, but he's going to do whatever he wants. Go ahead, Ryan.
And I hear you on that, but like when I pray for that person who's like the 7-year-old who could be dying, I'm not only praying for healing, and hoping for that. I'm praying for comfort. I'm praying for other things. I'm praying for her family. I'm praying for her.
Well, that's actually to the point that I was what I was making, to where it's like, people will say, okay, so let's just take the 7-year-old girl scenario, because we're not actually talking about a real 7-year-old girl. I just made it up. So 7-year-old girl has cancer, doesn't look good, kid's dying. And you get people together and you do those types of prayers. You do the hand laying on prayer. You have prayer meetings, have prayer vigils. You do all those different things.
Praying for salvation.
Yeah, like all that, right? Kid gets saved. Oh my gosh, praise God. This is amazing. No big, like, this is great. Like how, prayer works, all that. Okay. Next scenario, kid actually dies. Hey, you know what? God's sovereign. You know, God needed his angel back in heaven, or God's got a plan and God's whatever. And so that was always my struggle, just as like a justice, fairness minded person. It was kind of a mental handicap for me, because I'm like, wait, God, which I get it. I agree. God is sovereign and gets the praise no matter what, because he's going to try to use everything for his purposes. But I was like, okay, so you're like, we really need to pray about this. But even if it doesn't go the way that we prayed for, we're like, oh, it's all good though. You know, that was always like my struggle, where I didn't have anybody, kind of like we were talking about last week. I didn't have anyone discipling me, like answering some of these questions. I might be old hat for people. They're like, yeah, this shouldn't be a hang up, but it was just always a hang up for me, because it's like you're playing both sides of the fence and you're celebrating regardless of the results.
Yeah, and I think what came down for me is when I had those questions is it came down to the word obedience. Mm-hmm. It's like, I just have to be obedient. I may not like the outcome. I may be praying for a different outcome, but I need to be obedient to what God calls me to do. And then through that obedience, I'm going to find comfort. They're going to find comfort. God's going to work something out. But we also, the thing we have to look at too, is we live in a sinful world. You know, like Christ came to this earth, but he didn't heal everybody who was sick, you know? And so the thing is that we still live in a sinful world. People are going to die at young ages, and it's horrible and it's sad, but it's just the world that we live in. And God's going to work, stuff out to his good. You know, it may not be look good for us, but it could be good for something else. And so that's why we just have to have faith in his sovereignty.
Well, and you praying for a little girl or a, you know, a neighbor or whatever the scenario is, it's God can create a unique character in you through that experience, right? Like you're consecrating your faith in him on the situation by going to prayer, by reading, you know, scripture about it, committing it to prayer. It's like, hey, God, you're basically establishing, like, this is your situation. You are sovereign over this situation. So and just because I ask you out of my own selfishness, right? Like every day I'm proof that we need a savior. And part of that is selfishness. My really narrow mindset and my narrow vision of what is good in this situation tells me that the only thing good in this situation is if she gets better. Like, that's the only good, but I'm limited. I've got a limited perspective on eternity. I've got a limited perspective on God's plan. So 100%. God's goodness is what I just need to pray. God, I know that you love her, and I know that you want that you have a plan for her, and it's to prosper and not to harm, and just sit and soak in God's goodness and just show that you are faithful to his plan, rather than like, hey, I'm going to ask, and if it doesn't happen, I'm going to be ready, because he gives and he takes. So if he gives, I'm going to say, well, yeah, he's a good giver and he's a good father and he's a provider. And if he takes, I'm like, yeah, well, you know, I mean, he takes, you know. So
and you bring up that narrow-mindedness, and I think back to Dorcas.
Dorsas.
Back when,
don't do that to her.
When church it up, got to church it up.
Dorsas by Creed.
Yes. Hey, are you able to submit like name suggestions? That's fantastic. Dorsas by Creed. Let's go. The official scent of the forging table.
I love it.
Oh man.
Come on, Ryan.
Man,
should start the email with, I just heard the news today.
Yeah.
Let's go.
So narrow-minded.
Yeah. So narrow-mindedness is how we don't know what God's going to do. Like, we have to trust in his sovereignty. So when Peter went in there to Dorcas while she was dead, he had everybody leave. Notice that nobody was in there to watch him, because he didn't know what was going to happen. He's like, I'm going to pray for her. I'm going to believe for this. But if it doesn't happen, I don't want, you know, everybody to think like, oh, he doesn't have the power, or, you know, God's not with him or anything like that. No, he goes and does it in private, you know, and then through that privacy, you know, God fulfilled what he needed to fulfill in that moment. And that was to bring people to Christianity. But that's the thing, is like, we have a narrow-minded view. He's like, either she's going to live or she's going to die. I don't know what's going to happen after this.
Yeah.
I think there's something else to add here. I mean, we talk about the narrow-minded view. I would also, just as a Christian nation now, when we say we're praying earnestly, I honestly think that looked a lot different back then. We're very comfortable. You know, we don't need a whole lot. And honestly, when you go back and you look at church history, you know, within a few centuries of Christ, you know, dying and suffering, you suddenly see the Roman Catholic Church rising up out of power. And what are they doing? They're gaining great wealth. They're gaining great prestige. It becomes a political appointment once the Romans take over, and once the Romans make it an official religion. And I look at it and I go, well, Peter's like, when you go back to the beautiful gate and him healing the lame man at the beautiful gate, and just literally just walks by and just stand up and walk. And it's told this story to you and Terry and Matt, but Thomas Aquinas went and visited Rome, and Pope Innocent's touring him around the Vatican and just basically showing him all these great riches and gold and silver. And he looks over at Aquinas and he says, no longer can they say gold and silver, we have none. And Aquinas responds, maybe that's why we can no longer say stand up and walk. I just don't think that we don't have the desperation that they did back then, because we're just so comfortable. We are so comfortable. And I think, yes, there's these horrible diagnoses and everything, but we've become so confident in what man can do. They had so much faith in the supernatural, and we put so much faith in the natural.
When's the last time anyone at this table had to pray the prayer, give us this day our daily bread?
Yeah.
That's
never.
Yeah, I mean, for a lot of us, I mean, like, we didn't grow up with a lot of money, but I was never cold, indoors. I was never hot indoors, and I always went to bed with a full belly. You know what I mean? And so you're right. Like, we have a different level here. And that's, again, we have such a U.S. centric idea of Christianity as well, such a Western centric idea of Christianity. But it's like, hey, man, Christianity is exploding in places in the Middle East. It's exploding in sub-Saharan Africa. It's exploding in Southeast Asia and all these places, because it's like, Christianity doesn't need the Oklahoma City metro area. It doesn't need DFW. It doesn't need, name your favorite place. It doesn't need Jacksonville. It doesn't need any of these places, because he's going to get done whatever he needs to get done. I mean, we've talked about a lot on this podcast, Middle East, where you have Jesus visiting Muslims in their dreams. That's what happened with Nabil Qureshi. And he's like literally a Muslim apologist. And then all of a sudden Jesus is talking to him in his dreams. And there are places in this country, or in this world rather, where we can't get missionaries into, right? Like, and so the Holy Spirit's doing work where we can't be the hands and feet.
But we still need to have that obedience. And this is coming from the Calvinist. We still need to have that obedience to go out and be the hands and feet. Well,
you're right though, because, and we've talked about on the show as well, like those times when we hear whispers, hey, you need to go talk to that person. Or, hey, you need to pay for that person's dinner. Or, hey, you need to whatever. And if you're anything like me listening to this, or the guys at the table, I want to be like, well, why? Like, what is the purpose? As opposed to, it's like, look, moron, like that's not the point. The point is not so you can know why. The point is I told you to. Yeah. And you get to choose whether or not you're going to do that, or whether you're not going to do that, or he's going to compel us to do it. One of those categories, he's going to like figure that out. But yes, when we get that nudge to be the hands and feet, we should kind of have a pretty good idea where that nudge is coming from.
Yep.
All right, guys, let's keep Acts 12 rolling. Nicely done. All right, Dagan, let's go ahead and hit 6 through 19.
The night before Herod was to bring him to trial, Peter was sleeping between two soldiers, bound with two chains, and sentries stood guard at the entrance. Suddenly an angel of the Lord appeared, and a light shone in the cell. He struck Peter on the side and woke him up. "Quick, get up," he said, and the chains fell off Peter's wrists. Then the angel said to him, "Put on your clothes and sandals," and Peter did so. "Wrap your cloak around you and follow me," the angel told him. Peter followed him out of the prison, but he had no idea that what the angel was doing was really happening. He thought he was seeing a vision. They passed the first and second guards and came to the iron gate leading to the city. It opened for them by itself, and they went through it. When they had walked the length of one street, suddenly the angel left him. Then Peter came to himself and said, "Now I know without a doubt that the Lord has sent his angel and rescued me from Herod's clutches and from everything the Jewish people were hoping would happen." When this had dawned on him, he went to the house of Mary, the mother of John, also called Mark, where many people had gathered and were praying. Peter knocked at the entrance. and a servant named Rhoda came to answer the door. When she recognized Peter's voice, she was so overjoyed she ran back without opening it and exclaimed, "Peter is at the door." "You're out of your mind," they told her. When she kept insisting that it was so, they said, "It must be an angel." But Peter kept on knocking, and when they opened the door and saw him, they were astonished. Peter motioned with his hand for them to be quiet and described how the Lord had brought him out of prison. "Tell James and the other brothers and sisters about this," he said. And then he left for another place. In the morning, there was no small commotion among the soldiers as to what had become of Peter. After Herod had a thorough search made for him and did not find him, he cross-examined the guards and ordered they be executed. Oh, more. Then Herod went to Judea, from Judea to Caesarea, and stayed there.
Yeah. So
that was the important part I missed.
Yeah, that's okay. But you created suspense. It really worked out. You know, it's like,
Very suspenseful.
wait, but what happens next?
Where did he go?
Yeah.
Where did he go?
So, yeah, I mean, at the end, it's pretty rough. I literally wrote ouch in there to where it's like, hey, you lost your prisoner. It's like you pay with your life. If this ever happened, a lot of these guards or sentries or, you know, whoever was in charge, they would actually kill themselves to, you know, potentially save themselves from a torturous death. They would just take a quick death. But I want to actually go back to something kind of funny. Like verse 14 is actually funny. If you read verse 14, recognizing Peter's voice in her joy, she did not open the gate, but ran in and reported that Peter was standing at the gate.
I love it.
She left it hanging.
But like the first time I read it, I had completely missed it. And then when I went back, I was like, oh my gosh, she got so excited that she forgot to do the one thing that she was supposed to do.
I imagine like the scene, like if this was a movie, right? Like Rhoda runs and is in the other room, and then and she's like, Peter's at the door, and they're like, that's crazy. No, seriously, he must be an angel. And then it pans back to Peter out of the door. He's like, hello, Rhoda.
Yeah. Like, will you please come back?
Yeah.
That would have been
It's dark out here. Of the door, Rhoda.
It's dark out here.
Guys,
Just escaped.
For whatever reason, that made me think about that Irish guy at his funeral that they were playing. He said, I'm going to play a song. You know, the guy announced, he wants to play a song for his funeral, and they hit it. And it's a recording of him going, hello, is anyone there? And he's knocking like he's in the casket. And so he like wanted to give his family like one last laugh. So all these people are graveside, like literally like melting down because, you know, their person's dead. And he's literally like, hello, and just knocking. So that's probably what he was experiencing at this moment.
That's hilarious.
All right. Anything else on this section? Go ahead and talk about whatever you want to talk about.
well, to me, there is a direct analogy to, you know, Peter he's an important prisoner, right? Like they can't execute him now because they're in this Passover and the, you know, Feast of Unleavened Bread, but they're going to do it as soon as that festival is over. So he's an important person. They've got him guarded. They got him guarded like multiple places from the front of the prison all the way back to the back. And then he's like sleeping between two people.
Yeah.
Right. Mm-hmm. So it's like, to me, you know, and the angel comes in and just takes him out of that. And y'all, like, that is what, like, there are sometimes where we feel so bound in our sin that we literally feel like we are chained to it and we're sleeping between it. And that there's no hope. There is, I'm chained to this sin. And even if I got away from this sin that's current and present, I can see the next trap that the devil has for me. Mm-hmm. And then past that is another trap. It's like all of these layers and how desperate and like futile that place is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But just as the angel came to Peter and just like tapped him and said, get up. And then it's like, oh, get dressed. And it's like, oh, put on your robe because it's cold outside. Right. It's like, hey, do this and took him out. Like God wants to do that for all of us. There is no circumstance that you are in and feel chained to that God can't just deliver you from like in an instant, right? Like pull you out of the prison, walk you through bars and gates and guards and rescue you from it.
Like the thing that made me think about too is like every time somebody sees an angel, they're in fear and like they're freaking out. And so I think the angel even says like, gird up your loins. And I remember that's what God said to Job, like, man up.
Yeah, it's like, hey, get your crap together.
Yeah,
we got to get out of here.
We got to get out of here.
Well, Dagan, that was a nice little sermonette that you just delivered. Like, let's go a little further with that because I I remember being asked this. I can't remember the context. It's not really important, but I remember somebody talking. Well, I remember now. So I was delivering a talk to a mastermind. It's a Christian business mastermind group. So shout out Riley Meek and the stuff that he does with King's Council and all that. But I'm talking to this group, and the subject matter was discipline, because I'm big on discipline, pre-decision, like, do the stuff that you're supposed to do. You don't necessarily do what you feel like doing. And so I do this talk, right? And then it's Q&A time at the end, 15 minutes left or whatever. And the very first question, and for whatever reason, I could just see by the guy's smarmy look on his face exactly what he was going to say. And he goes, well, Kyle, that's all well and good for a guy like you. You were obviously born very disciplined and you lead a very disciplined life. But what about for the rest of us, people that aren't born that way? And I was like, no, I'm not going to let you do that. I make choices every single day about what I'm going to do, because you have to constantly put deposits in the right bank account. Easiest way to talk about it is with exercise. So I've pre-decided tonight that when I wake up tomorrow morning that I'm going to go exercise. I'm not going to wait to see how I feel in the morning, if I feel recovered enough, or if my watch says my body battery is high enough for me to exercise that day. I've pre-decided that I'm going to get after it, okay? And so the same thing happens with all these disciplines. You have to decide that this is something that you can do. You're going to put a plan in place, and then you're going to execute on it. But the same thing happens with people with sin. There's like, okay, so let's take addiction to porn, okay? So you got two guys. This guy is addicted, but he's got software. He's got accountability brothers. Like, he's fighting against the temptation. He stopped masturbating because that's like the key to where he would want to look at, this pornographic material. So it would be masturbatory aid. So he's attacking the cycle. And then you got the other guys just like, man, it's just out of my hands. Or he bought into this crap that it's an actual like addiction that needs to have medical treatment or some of that nonsense. I feel like a lot of guys with this, they're comfortable with the chains, because when you have the chains, then you get a diagnosis. And if you get a diagnosis, then you could potentially get,
you feel normal.
You feel normal because everybody else has, orange bottles with white tops on it in their bathroom. And this one's for my anxiety, and this one's for my this, and this one's for my that. They never had a doctor once tell them like, hey, have you tried getting sleep, exercising, and eating real food for 3 months? Maybe that'll change your entire life. But on the sin piece, I just feel like so many people, Dagan, especially, they're just like, nope, I'm chained to it. There's no getting out. And it's just, God's not going to deliver me from it. So, I'm just going to try my best to live with it.
Well, or there's the angel came to Peter. God comes to someone in the midst of their sin and says, hey, get up. Get up, get your stuff, and come on. And they don't.
Yeah.
And it's like, nah, Jesus paid for this.
Yeah.
And it's like, wow.
And the culture we live now, and the grace culture that we live now, like even I was stuck in that, where I'm like, hey, this is just who I am. I need to love who I am. It's like,
I need to love myself.
Yeah, I need to love myself. God understands me. This is how he made me.
Yeah.
No, sin made me this way. God showed me what is moral and what is right and what is holy. I need to strive for that.
I just saw a video literally today. Frank Turek, he was, out of college, and a woman comes up to the microphone and gives this very, emotional appeal and description. But ultimately her point was, why did God make me a lesbian? And so we're not going to get into what Frank said, but the answer is God did not make you a lesbian. He made you in his image. Now, we all have propensities, and we all have different flavors of sin or scents of sin. Maybe we have a certain scent for the winter of sin, or scent for like the summer of sin. I mean, it's just whatever you're into. But we all have our bent, but we get to choose whether or not we give into it. So I don't have a chemical bent. So I can have one whiskey and be good, and not have whiskey again for the rest of the month and be fine. But I have friends that when they have one, it's 7. Right. And it's 1, and then they just can't stop themselves. The chemical has got them. For me, it's sexual, right? So I know that if I crack the door back open to the world of porn, it's just going to be a deluge, and it's going to be very, very hard for me to get out of that. So I don't even flirt with it. So it's like no porn, no masturbation, not at all, not for any reason, not regardless of the circumstances. But that's the thing that becomes very problematic, is when these people buy into this idea that I am my proclivity. Right? So, no, I am a lesbian. No, you have a proclivity towards same-sex attraction. You get to choose whether or not you act on it, because having same-sex attraction is not a sin. Acting on your same-sex attraction and having sex with a same-sex partner, that is sinful. And so I think that becomes deeply problematic is everybody wants a diagnosis, as I said earlier, because then they get to be in some club. They get to join some Reddit board of all these other people that struggle in the same way that they do.
And then you have there's a diagnosis part. Okay, so, and what's a prescription? I mean, the prescription is Christ. It's his saving grace, but then there's the prescription of sanctification.
Yeah.
It's a prescription of this. There is no more last time. My last time was last time.
Yeah.
I'm not doing this again. And I think whenever people are in the throes of addiction and they're dealing with that, so often it's, well, I'll do it just this one last time and that will be it. And it's like, nope, that's cracking the door open. It won't be your last time. Whatever excuse you're making for yourself right now, you're going to make it again, and you're going to make it again, and you're going to make it again. When you talk to people who have actually had substance abuse addictions and alcohol addictions, and I've shared the story of my cousin on here before. When you talk to people who were dealing with that, I mean, it literally is, I had to get to a point. It's rock bottom, but it's like, it's not just rock bottom. It's, I can't make this choice. I no longer have the ability to make this choice, because if I do, I'm going to die. And I think in a way, and this is going to sound maybe a little bit twisted, but in a way, I feel like they're so lucky, because it's like literally my choice is death or to continue. And when you're dealing with addictions where it's like, well, no, I'm not quite at that point, and I can just keep making these excuses and keep doing things over and over again, whatever that sin may be, whatever the sinful choice you have. I mean, if you decide to let the door open just a little bit, sin will rush through it.
Yeah. Well, and I promise that God is calling you in the middle of where you are in your sin. God's calling you. He's calling you and giving you an opportunity to leave the prison.
Yep.
Shackles free. Hey, all you got to do is get up, get your stuff, and follow and come home.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, I mean, I don't have anything to add to that. That's fantastic. I really like the points you were making there. Let's go ahead and wrap up Acts 12. Or go ahead. Did you have something else?
I did.
Please.
We get introduced to Mark. Nobody wants to talk. We get introduced to Mark here.
Go.
So Mark is
Marky Mark.
Kind of an interesting thing here as people maybe get to Marky Mark.
It's
we can let everybody in on the inside joke. You wanna?
She'd be happy about
Okay, fair enough. We'll leave it. We'll leave it.
So Mark originally was assigned to Paul and was supposed to go on his ministry, and it did not work out. Didn't work. Basically, Paul fired him.
Personality conflict.
Yeah, personality conflict, irreconcilable differences, whatever you want to call it. And he got sent home, and he went back home to live with his mom. So he's back home. And
he's made it.
Made it. So he's back home. He's living with mom.
So he's a millennial.
That's right. Yeah, that's exactly right.
No, he's a Gen Xer.
Gen Xer. And then suddenly Peter comes in. Peter returns from prison and happens to go into his mother's home, and Mark's there and becomes Peter's aide, and then writes Mark. I guess what I'm saying is just understand that sometimes whenever things don't work out the way that you want them to work out, or the way that you thought they were going to work out, understand that God may just have a different idea of what he's going to do with you.
Well, it's what Ryan said earlier, I mean, the answered prayer scenarios, it's either yes, no, or wait, right? It's like, we don't want to wait. Like this society, it really doesn't want to wait, and like my kids' generation, they don't even know what wait is, right? I got a notification yesterday that my daughter DoorDashed a drink to dance to her dance studio. Is a $12 Starbucks charge for a $6 drink. And I'm just like, we have to talk about patience and waiting in my home, but it's, they don't want to wait.
Yeah.
One thing that I saw in this was back in 15, it says, it struck me, they're having this prayer group, right?
Yeah.
They're having this prayer group and they're praying for something very specific. And Rhoda comes back to the room where they're praying and she's like, Peter's here.
Oh yeah.
It's like the thing that they're praying for
happens
right there.
And their response is, you're out of your mind.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, God,
to bed,
deliver
Rhoda.
Peter from jail. Hey, Peter's at the door. No, you're crazy.
Yeah, go to bed.
Pretty sure he's sleeping next to two guys right now.
Yeah, it's like in the midst of a miracle, they're like passing it off as a mistake, right? Like, no. You know, and I'm like, I do that a lot. You know what I mean? Like, it's just like your attitude. It's like you got to pray as though the thing you're praying for is going to knock on your door.
Well, that's the thing is like you live in this world sometimes where you're like, I'm just going to think about the worst possible situation and go with it. So then I don't get let down when it does happen. And so like, I feel like back then, like maybe that's how they thought. They're like, oh, that's never going to happen. But like nowadays, like sometimes we're a little over the top. We're like, oh, we didn't get it. We should have gotten it, but we didn't. And so now we're going the other direction. So it's like finding that good median balance in my prayer life. Like, I don't want to get my hopes up, but I also want to have my faith at the same time.
Yeah. And they're just praying with some level of expectance. Cause again, that's several verses in a row that's all very funny. Like that's like very, very easy. But even going back to the point, Jake, that you were making about, hey, something might happen. So let's just spin a scenario. You're working at Macy's and you're working at the scent counter, and you know, maybe you've been taking too many samples home with you of the different colognes, and they fire you. And then it's like, you know what? Someday you might end up on the forging table. Right? So it's just like,
I'm on the forging table. I get reamed for my Calvinism for about 45 minutes.
No.
And I decide in my prideful moment that I'm going to leave the forging table, but then God's like, no, I'm bringing you right back into the thick of it. They're going to give you a hard time about cologne for the next couple of episodes.
That's right.
Are you wearing something today, like now?
He already asked. Yes.
Okay. I'm going to get a little close after this is done. And I'm going to experience it.
As long as you don't kiss me like Winkler tried to.
No.
Oh God. Well, he can't.
What?
Can't. Yeah, that happened before we started recording, guys. It was awkward for everybody involved. There was cuddling involved, but hey, we don't have to go there right now. We do have to wrap
two big
up.
old polar bears.
Hey, that's okay. No. Okay, but let's get back to the Bible before it gets any worse. Acts 12, Winkler, if you wouldn't mind being serious for 5 seconds, and finish with 20 verses 25.
Now Herod was angry with the people of Tyre and Sidon, and they came to him with one accord, and having persuaded Blastus, the king's chamberlain, they asked for peace because their country depended on the king's country for food. On an appointed day, Herod put on his royal robes, took his seat. I'm sorry, Horn. Go on. On an appointed day, Herod put on his royal robes, took his seat upon the throne, and delivered an oration to them. And the people were shouting, "The voice of a God, not of a man." Immediately an angel of the Lord struck him down, because he did not give God the glory, and he was eaten by worms and breathed his last. But the word of God increased and multiplied, and Barnabas and Saul returned from Jerusalem when they had completed their service, bringing with them John, whose other name was Mark.
Are you guys going to be okay? Are we going to have to separate you two? All right. I'm so glad to hear that you guys have recovered. Now, the interesting thing about this. So I tried to do a little bit of research, see what other places it said about the death of Herod Agrippa I. And essentially there is consensus that he had some sort of intestinal worm. The only thing that I thought was weird, I don't know why it struck me as weird, it said immediately an angel of the Lord struck him down because he did not give God the glory, and he was eaten by worms and breathed his last. And so it's like, every description that I heard was that he suffered mightily for the last week of his life
5 days.
from 5 days. That's what I saw as well, from this intestinal thing. And so it's like, okay, did he immediately strike him down on the back end of the things that were happening intestinally or something like that? So again, I'm not like challenging the Bible, whether or not it's a problem.
Striking him down, he may have fell and hit the ground. And so from what I read, and R.C. Sproul talked about it, he talked about what was written here, and then also what was written by Josephus
On the antiquities of the Jews.
Antiquities of the Jews. Herod was like dressed like a freaking like Marvel star. Yeah. Like he had like silver like sewn into his cape, like walking in like he's like, I don't know, like a rock star. And then everybody was just glorifying him. And then that's when he took and said, you know, he was God, and then he was just struck down. He just fell to the ground. And that's what I think they mean by that. Okay. But yeah, it was like 5 days. Some people say it was arsenic poisoning, could have been worms, or it could have been appendicitis. They don't know, but
yeah, the dynamic here between when Cornelius meets Peter and bows down and he says, stand up, I'm a man.
Yep.
Stand up, I'm a man. Here's Herod. He's executed James. He tried to imprison Peter. He got away. Herod shows up and he's in this silver clad robe that it's meant to make him look like a god. When they talk about royal robes here in Luke, Josephus actually goes into a lot of detail in terms of what he was wearing. And it was, I mean, he would have made a drag queen look conservative.
He looked like a queen. He looked like he was walking into a Queen concert.
That's right. Yeah. And so he's I mean, he is dressed to the hilt. He's got, and this robe that he had on was like, had so much silver on it that when the light hit it, it like was so bright.
Yeah.
And so they start basically talking about him like he's a god, and he does not stop it. And that's it.
Pours it. Brings it in. And my favorite part about it is that he dies, and then it goes, but the word of God increased and multiplied. Like, boom. Like, this dude just gets dropped. And it's like, and the word of God just multiplied.
Yeah.
Like,
And
you can't stop it.
He is a footnote. This is a guy that was worshiping at the altar of self, getting high on his own farts, and he's like just a footnote in the book of Acts.
And importantly, hunting down Christians and trying to kill the Christian leadership.
Yep.
Right.
Didn't matter.
Guys, anything else?
Multiplied.
Anything else on Acts 12? I feel the need to do this, but I'm not just going to do it by fiat here. Because this is the last time Winkler's going to be here. I feel like we just need to do a quick round of trivia to see, maybe just first to two to see.
Let's do first to three. I want to redeem myself.
Okay. Are we in? Are we all in?
I'm in.
Kyle, did I just get kicked off the forging table?
No.
I'm the one that's actually going to be gone for a
here.
while.
I'm like, what happened?
All right. Well, I don't have the thing. So the best way to do this is I'm going to write down a number between 1 and 100, and so whoever's closest to that number, you get to go first. So I am not going to be included in this. Okay. I've written down the number. Jake, give me your guess.
52.
Horn.
73.
73.
51.
The nicely done, but it was 77. So Horn, you are first. This is fantastic. That means he gets to go last. Okay. So Scouts honor. Look right here. Laugh gaff.
Okay.
Generate quiz.
Yeah.
New quiz. Internet's back. The first question. Ryan Horn. What is the first element of the periodic table? You got this. You know this. You got it. Come on, baby.
It's aluminum.
It's hydrogen.
I didn't.
Hydrogen. All right. Well,
I was horrible at chemistry.
Yeah, this is not a great start. All right. Dagan. Rap superstar Andre Young is better known by what name?
Oh.
Yeah.
Dr. Dre.
Yes, sir. You're in. Dr. Dre. D-R-E. Mine is, what is the name of the spaceship in the movie Alien? No idea. Never saw it. We'll say Kapukas. All right. It's the Nostromo.
Oh.
The Nostromo.
I thought it was.
All right. Here we go. What is the name of the snowman's dog in the movie Smokey and the Bandit?
Oh, my gosh.
That's for you, Winkler.
Lyle.
No. Can I guess?
You can guess. You're not going to get it, but
It's Flash.
it's Fred.
Fred. Oh, it is
Sorry.
Fred.
All right. Horn.
Back.
We only got one guy on the board. It's Dagan. All right. First Impressions was the original title of which book?
First impressions.
Yeah.
Revelation.
Judges.
First impressions was the title of which book? Great Expectations.
Pride and Prejudice by Jane Austen. All right. Dagan Boyd. Which Italian city was explorer Marco Polo from?
Oh, shoot.
Joppa.
Marco Polo was he from Florence?
Venice. He was from Venice. All right. Kyle. In which European city did Jim Morrison die?
Oh, I know this.
The Doors. Paris. Which European city? I'll say Paris.
Because you just said it.
Paris.
I did just say it. Sorry.
Ready, set,
I thought
go.
you had given up on it. Oh, well.
I have not given up. Oh, I would 2 seconds into my guessing, and then you're like, you just say it. So I'll take it. So, all right, Winkler, to pull into a three-way tie with me and Dagan, in Greek mythology, of which island was Minos king?
Crete.
Crete. Winkler is on the board. Horn still goose egg. Dagan and Kyle with one apiece. Horn, we need you on the board here.
All right.
Which scientist first formulated the 3 laws of motion?
Newton?
Yes, sir. Isaac Newton, you're on the board. Everybody's tied at 1. Dagan, what is the collective noun for a group of rhinoceroses?
Do not say Ryan
Collective noun.
I'm going to call them a bevy.
Pachyderm?
It's a crash.
A crash.
Oh,
Hey,
cool.
that's pretty freaking awesome.
That is cool.
I did not know that. Okay, mine is what currency was used in France before the euro? I'm going to say the franc. Bam. All right. I've got 2. I'm 1 away from winning, Winkler. You got to stay on pace here. Who is the youngest king of England?
The youngest king of England?
Yes, sir.
Oh, it's one of the Lancasters. I'm going to go Henry the 6th.
Need a final answer here.
Henry the 6th.
Yeah, you got it. I wish you had said Henry V. Dadgummit. That's why I asked you final answer. I was hoping you would change your mind. All right. Winkler and I are tied at 2. Horn and Dagan tied at 1. Here we go. Next round. Ryan, who wrote the Tarzan series of books?
Rudyard Kipling?
Not a bad guess. Maybe but Edgar Rice Burroughs.
Oh, yeah. I don't even know who that guy is.
That guy.
I didn't even know Tarzan was a book.
All right. Dagan, in the 1964 Good Friday earthquake occurred in what U.S. state?
California.
Alaska.
Wow.
Wow.
All right. Me with a chance to win.
If you all could see the smile
my
on
gosh.
Kyle Thompson's face right now.
YouTube
wasn't if I
land.
didn't guess
Smells
72.
victory. He smells victory.
The funny thing about it is I just read it just now and I'm like, I think I know it, but I'm not exactly sure. So it's what is the tallest mountain in Africa?
Oh, I know.
Say Kilimanjaro.
That's it. That's it.
Do you
Kyle
believe in
wins.
miracles? We have a new champion at the top of Trivia Mountain.
Kyle
Who's
prayed for
smart?
this.
Who wants to touch me? Anybody want to touch me? Hey, do we need to worry about silver medals or is it just we just worried about golds right now?
See, the way I look at it, it's 2 out of 3.
Oh,
So
you're up. You're currently up 2
I
to
feel
1.
like if we're playing if we're playing a series here, I'm still up.
Bet. So throughout the year, we will finish this World Series. You got up 2-0, but now we've got home field advantage. I am now back in the board. I'm back in this series. Well, guys, thank you so much for your dedication to this group of Forging Table episodes. It was an absolute pleasure, but we're going to leave it there. But guys, come back here next week. We are going to be digging into Acts 13. So make sure you're read all the way through Acts 13. But before we let you go, we are going to do a quick resilience boost. At Undaunted.Life, our mission is equipping men to push back darkness with content that forges spiritual, mental, and physical resilience. Don't forget, Logos Bible software. Don't pay full price. Get it at a discount. If you want to take your Bible study to the next level, use that software. Use the link in our show notes. And also, we've got an amazing 5-book Forging Table Starter set that we partnered with Crossway to get to you guys at half price. It's got an amazing study Bible, a scripture journal, a devotional, a couple of other great books. And then also, guys, we are a donation-based ministry. So here in our show notes, we've got a link to our donation page. If you're wondering how we're able to pull off content like this, it's because we have donors just like you that want to be able to help equip men to push back darkness all over the globe. You can help us by doing that by hopping on board and being a monthly donor. Thank you for listening to this podcast. Wherever you're listening to this, please subscribe, rate, and leave us a positive 5-star review. If you want me to come speak live at your event or on your podcast, just shoot me an email to info@undaunted.life. That's info@undaunted.life. Follow us on Instagram and like us on Facebook, and check out our website for everything else, including how to donate to keep more content like this coming your way. Just go to www.undaunted.life. And as always, we want to thank the band Holy Name for allowing us to use their music for our content. The music on this podcast is their song Perpetua, which is off their self-titled debut album on Face Down Records. The links are in the description. I'm your host, Kyle Thompson. Remember, keep pushing back darkness, keep forging spiritual, mental, and physical resilience, keep seeking the Lion of Judah.